I never thought I'd be the kind of man who told strangers about his heartbreak. I used to believe love was simple. Two people, one promise, and the courage to hold on no matter what. But that was before she left me. Before the woman I planned to spend my life with walked away, her hand slipping from mine so she could wrap it around someone else's wallet. It wasn't just any breakup. It was betrayal. She didn't leave me because we stopped loving each other. She left because she found someone richer. A man with a shiny car, a penthouse apartment, and the kind of money that could buy anything, except the years she and I had already lived together. I remember the night she told me. Her voice shook, but not because she was sad. It was guilt, or maybe fear of how I'd react. I sat there, frozen, staring at the woman I thought I knew better than anyone. She said words I'll never forget. "You're a good man, but he can give me the life I deserve." The life she deserved. Those 4 words cut deeper than any knife. For weeks after, I was a ghost in my own life. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept asking myself, what made me less of a man? Wasn't my love enough? Didn't the way I held her during storms, the sacrifices I made, the dreams I built for us, didn't that matter? And yet, no matter how many times I asked, the answer was always silence. She was gone, and I was left staring at the pieces of a future that never came true. But here's where the story takes a turn no one saw coming. Because while I was drowning in the memory of her, someone else stepped quietly into my life. Someone I should never have even considered. Someone who should have been untouchable. Her sister. It started innocently, too innocently. A text checking in on me, a visit to see if I'd eaten, a laugh shared over how terrible I was at cooking for myself. At first, I thought she was just being kind, maybe guilty for what her sister had done. But then, I noticed the way she looked at me. Not with pity, not with judgment, but with something I couldn't explain. Something warm, something dangerous. And I'll be honest, part of me hated it. Hated how much comfort I found in her presence. Hated how my broken heart seemed to beat again whenever she was near. Because if there was one line a man should never cross, it was falling for the sister of the woman who shattered him. But life doesn't care about rules. And hearts don't ask for permission. One night, she said something to me that made my world stop. Something that made me realize this story wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. It was about choices. Choices that could change everything for all of us. And that's when things truly began to spiral. Before everything fell apart, I thought I had the perfect life. Her name was Emily, and from the moment we met, I felt like the universe had finally handed me my reason to exist. She wasn't just beautiful, though she was breathtaking in ways I can still remember too clearly. She had this fire in her. She made every room brighter, every plan bigger, every tomorrow worth chasing. We started dating when I barely had anything. I was building my career, hustling to prove myself, saving every penny so one day we wouldn't have to worry about bills or rent. And she was there, by my side, cheering me on, telling me she didn't care about the money as long as we had each other. That was our promise. Love first, everything else second. But promises are fragile when tested by temptation. When Daniel came into the picture, a man who wore wealth like a second skin, everything changed. He wasn't just rich, he flaunted it. Expensive cars, designer suits, dinners at places where a single glass of wine cost more than my entire weekly grocery bill. He didn't need to win Emily's heart with love. He bought it with glitter and gold. And slowly, without me even noticing, she started slipping away. I'd catch her looking at me differently, not with the same spark, but with questions in her eyes. Questions about what life could be like if she didn't have to wait for me to make it. And then, one night, she answered those questions for herself by walking out the door with him. That was the end of us. Or at least, that's what I thought. But here's where the lines start to blur. Emily had a younger sister, Claire. She was nothing like her. Where Emily was bold and restless, Claire was calm, thoughtful, and maybe a little shy. I'd always seen her as the quiet one in the background, the girl with the kind smile who never demanded attention. During the years Emily and I were together, Claire and I barely spoke outside of family gatherings. A polite hello, small talk about work or school, nothing more. She was her sister's shadow, and I never thought twice about it. But after Emily left me, Claire started showing up. At first, it was small things. A knock at my door with homemade soup because she made too much. A text saying she heard I wasn't doing well and asking if I wanted company. A phone call late at night where she just listened, letting me spill the pain I couldn't carry alone. It felt strange at first, like a betrayal to even accept her kindness. But the more I pushed her away, the more she stayed. Not in a desperate way, but in this steady, unshakable way that felt almost safe. And slowly, I realized something unsettling. The comfort I used to feel with Emily was gone, but with Claire, it was beginning to grow. A bond one never expected, a connection I never searched for, but one that felt undeniable. And deep down, I knew if it continued, there would be no turning back. I kept telling myself it was wrong. Every time Claire showed up at my door with that soft smile, every time she laughed at one of my bitter jokes, every time her hand brushed mine just a little too long, I reminded myself she was Emily's sister. But the heart doesn't care about logic, and mine was caught in the middle of a war. Part of me still hated Emily for what she did. The betrayal, the lies, the way she replaced years of love with a man who barely knew her. But another part of me still carried her in my chest. No matter how hard I tried, her ghost was always there. And now, Claire was standing in front of me, alive and real, pulling me out of that darkness. It was confusing, painful, even, because every moment with Claire made me wonder, was this love or just desperation? The more time we spent together, the more impossible it became to ignore the truth. She wasn't just being nice. She wasn't just checking in. The way she looked at me when she thought I wasn't watching, the way her voice softened when she said my name, it was more. And whether I wanted to admit it or not, I was starting to feel the same. But that's when the real conflict began. Because Emily hadn't disappeared completely. She still called sometimes, checking in like she had any right to know how I was doing. Once, she even showed up at my place, flaunting her new life, pretending she wanted to see if I was okay. And that's when she noticed Claire's jacket on the back of my chair. Her eyes narrowed. Her smile vanished. "What's she doing here?" she asked, her voice sharp, cutting. I froze. My mind spun with excuses, explanations, but I couldn't find the words. Because the truth was, I didn't know what to call whatever was happening between Claire and me. Emily didn't wait for an answer. She just stared at me with this mix of anger and something else. Jealousy, maybe? Then she whispered, "You can't. Not with her. Don't you dare." And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about love anymore. It was about loyalty, betrayal, and a secret that could tear their family apart. Because if Emily ever found out how deep Claire's feelings for me really went, everything would explode. And maybe it already had. After that night, nothing felt the same. Emily's words kept echoing in my head. "Don't you dare." It wasn't a warning. It was a threat. And the worst part? She wasn't entirely wrong. Every time I saw Claire, the guilt weighed heavier on me. I'd look at her and see kindness, warmth, and this quiet strength that Emily never had. But I also saw the shadow of her sister standing between us, daring me to cross a line I could never uncross. Yet Claire wasn't making it easy to resist. If anything, she was breaking down the walls I had left. One evening, I found myself sitting across from her at my kitchen table. The lights were dim, the silence thick, and she was telling me about how Emily had always been the one who got everything she wanted. The perfect clothes, the perfect attention, the perfect love. And me, she said softly, her eyes glistening. I was always the afterthought. Her voice cracked when she whispered, "But with you, I don't feel invisible." Those words nearly broke me. Because in that moment, I wanted nothing more than to reach across the table, hold her face in my hands, and tell her she wasn't invisible. Not to me, not ever again. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because if Emily ever found out, and that's when things began to spiral even further. Emily started calling more, almost obsessively. Late-night texts asking if I'd moved on, sudden visits at my apartment like she was trying to catch me in something. She showed up at my work one afternoon, smiling sweetly in front of my coworkers while her eyes burned into me with accusation. And through it all, Claire kept slipping closer into my life. Almost like fate was pushing us together while Emily was trying to tear us apart. The tension was unbearable. One night, after Emily had stormed out of my place again, this time furious because she thought she heard Claire's voice in the background, I turned to Claire and said the words I'd been holding back for weeks. "We can't keep doing this." But instead of agreeing, Claire stepped closer. Her eyes locked on mine, fearless for the first time. "Then stop pretending you don't feel it too." My heart pounded in my chest. The air between us felt electric. like one wrong move could set the whole world on fire. And before I could stop myself, before I could think of consequences, I felt the distance between us disappearing. Her hand brushed mine. Her breath was warm against my cheek. And just as I thought the moment would finally break, that we'd finally give in to what had been building all along, there was a knock at the door. A hard, deliberate knock that froze us both in place. I turned, my chest tight, my palms sweating, because deep down I already knew. I didn't even have to open the door to realize who it was. Emily. And this time, she wasn't here to talk. The pounding on the door grew louder, sharper, like every strike was meant to break more than just the wood. It was meant to shatter the fragile line I'd been walking. Claire's hand slipped from mine, her face pale. I opened the door, bracing for Emily's fury. And there she was, eyes blazing, lips curled in a smile that wasn't really a smile at all. But what chilled me wasn't her anger. It was the man standing behind her. Daniel, her rich, polished boyfriend. Or at least, that's who I thought he was. But the look on his face told a different story, cold, hard, like he wasn't there to play games. Emily crossed her arms, her voice sharp as glass. You think you can steal my sister after everything? Do you have any idea what you've just done? Daniel stepped forward, his hand landing heavy on my shoulder. You should have stayed out of this, he muttered, his voice low, dangerous. My heart stopped. This wasn't about love anymore. This was about power, secrets, and something far darker than I ever imagined. Because in that moment, I realized Daniel wasn't just Emily's new man. He was hiding something big. And now, I was in the middle of it. The air was thick, charged, as Daniel's hand gripped my shoulder. Claire stood frozen behind me, her breath trembling, while Emily watched with this twisted satisfaction, like she was finally in control again. Stay out of what? I asked, my voice sharper than I felt inside. Daniel's jaw tightened. He glanced at Emily, then back at me, and for a moment, I swore I saw fear flicker in his eyes. You don't know what she's dragged you into, he said quietly, almost like a warning. But Emily snapped. Don't listen to him. He's mine. He chose me. And you. She pointed at Claire, venom dripping from every word. You've always been jealous. You'll never take what's mine. Claire stepped forward, her voice shaking but strong. He didn't choose you, Emily. You chose money over love. Don't twist that into something else. That broke something inside Emily. Her scream pierced the room as she shoved Claire back, and before I could react, Daniel grabbed Emily's wrist, yanking her away. Enough, he roared. The mask finally cracked. In that moment, I saw the truth. Daniel wasn't Emily's savior. He was her prison, and she knew it. Her face drained of color as his grip tightened. She tried to smile, to cover it up, but the truth was out. She hadn't left me just for money. She'd traded me for control. And now it was slipping through her fingers. Claire ran to me, clutching my arm, and I realized everything had led to this choice. Stay chained to Emily's chaos, or finally break free with the woman who had stood by me through the wreckage. I took Claire's hand, pulling her behind me, and stared Daniel down. We're done here. Whatever game you're playing, leave us out of it. His eyes darkened, but he didn't move. Instead, he smiled, a thin, unsettling smile. Fine, he said, loosening his grip on Emily. But don't think she'll let you go that easily. Emily's tears finally broke. She looked at me, not with love, not with hate, but with something worse. Desperation. And as Claire and I walked past them, leaving that house of lies behind, Emily's whisper followed me into the night. If I can't have you, neither can she. The night we walked out together, hand in hand, felt like the first breath after drowning. Claire didn't let go of me once, and for the first time since Emily had left, I felt something that wasn't anger or grief. I felt free, but freedom came with scars. In the weeks that followed, Emily tried everything: calls, messages, even showing up at my doorstep in tears. Each time, she shifted between rage and pleading, as if she couldn't decide whether to hate me or beg me to come back. But no matter how loud she became, I knew the truth. She hadn't chosen me when she had the chance. And love doesn't survive on second thoughts. Daniel faded from the picture soon after. Rumors spread. Some said he'd left her. Others whispered about debts and secrets that caught up to him. Whatever the truth, Emily was suddenly alone, and in a strange way, I pitied her. She'd wanted a life of glitter, but it turned out to be nothing more than glass, shiny, fragile, and easy to break. Claire, Though, she was different. What started as comfort slowly became something real. She wasn't trying to fill Emily's place or erase the past. She just stood by me, quietly, patiently, reminding me that love doesn't always come in a storm. Sometimes it comes in the calm after. I'd be lying if I said it was easy. There were nights I woke up haunted by Emily's last words. If I can't have you, neither can she. Those words made me cautious, protective, always watching the shadows. But over time, they stopped sounding like a curse. They started sounding like a warning I refused to let control me. The real closure didn't come from walking away from Emily. It came from choosing to walk toward Claire. To stop living in the wreckage of what could have been and start building what should be. One evening, months later, we sat on the same kitchen table where she once told me she felt invisible. I reached across, took her hand, and said, "You were never invisible. Not to me. Not ever." Her eyes welled up, and in that silence, I knew something important. Sometimes the person who saves you isn't the one you begged to stay, but the one who stayed without being asked. So yes, she left me for a rich man. That part of the story will always sting. But the ending? The ending is that her sister became my everything. And if there's one thing I've learned through it all, it's this. Money can buy attention, but it can't buy devotion. Because real love, the kind that heals instead of wounds, doesn't come dressed in gold. It comes quietly, like a hand reaching for yours in the dark. And when you find it, you never let go.